Good evening. Let me start with a story. There was a king who has three daughters. All of them are intelligent enough. So one day the king decided to examine that how much they love their father. So the eldest and the second one, they knew the father's psychology very well. So they answered what the king wanted to listen. But the third child answered differently, which the king didn't like it. She was thrown out of the palace. After 1.5 years, the youngest girl about to get married, and at that point of time, she invited her father to attend the ceremony. Father went there and she made the best arrangement for her father. All the best food in the world. The first item the king couldn't eat. Daughter replaced the plate with another one. That too he couldn't eat. Then the daughter replaced the second one too. The king ate it and she appreciated the food. Then the king realized the why her third daughter told her that she loved her father like salt. You know that in life is also like that. I love to read the biography and the autobiographies of successful people. Now, perhaps without their endeavor and success, not only in our practical life but also to educate our mind, their biographies and the autobiographies are very, very important. But when I read, it occurs to me when they wrote it. Is it during their struggle period or once they get the fruit of their efforts? I don't know. Therefore, my friends, this is a big question for me. But at the same time, nonetheless, it is also important to understand that all these great men have many things in common. As we discussed in my previous video, that emotional intelligence plays very, very important role into our future shape. Therefore, it is very important to understand that like salt, we all know that how important the salt is for our body. Forget about the medical science. But ask any chefs in the world, they all know the importance of salt. We also know that. Can we eat food without salt? Unless you are a diabetic patient. That is also very difficult, It was more than a compulsion. But no food in the world can't be tasty without the salt. Now, what salt has to do with the organization or the human lives? As I said, that I don't like to hear or tell you about the medical side of the benefit of salt. Therefore, to be successful, as we all know that from the history of mankind, that there are something which are universally true. Those attributes are very, very essential in pursuit of excellence. But all these attributes, do we need to apply at the same time, at the same situation? Perhaps not. Now, when you need to be compassionate, it is important to show. But where you need to be strict, you would have to be strict. Therefore, like salt, that all these attributes must be in proportion to the situational demand, be it individual, be it groups, or be it organizations. Organizations is nothing but the people. Now, when we analyze these successful people, they all have these qualities which they instilled into their systems. Maybe failures after failures, they realize that, okay, these are all the things we need to incorporate and become much more successful. And that's why we remember them day in and day out. Now, coming back to the salt, if the salt is below proportion to a food, we can add it. That means if we apply the same logic of any attributes which is below requirement, we can always practice and improve upon. But anything more than proportion, it is dangerous. Like again, the salt, if the salt is more than proportion to a food, possibly we have to add something to make it edible. Take example of certain attributes like self-confidence. It is good, but anything below and over is bad. If it is below, we can practice to develop our self-confidence. But overconfidence is always destructive. Adaptability. If we are adaptable to any situation, is always better. But we also have to think the misuse of these attributes by others. Resilience is one of the great attributes of all successful human beings. Again, just the right proportion. You see that life, our journey of life is not a very straight. Therefore, there are many curves. Now, we don't know which curves we will be crossing tomorrow. So we have to prepare ourselves. This resilience comes into play. But you know that if we don't have the balancing factor in our life, no attributes will work. Vision. It is said to have or create a vision to be successful. But on what basis? Again, there are attributes to have a vision. Think of salt. Empathy. Too much of this to all situation may reduce to oneself to a laughing stock. Now, if you show your empathy to every situation, Possibly that is not required. Like these, all other attributes that makes a man successful, great, they all practice and develop the right proportion when they apply to all these attributes in a particular situation. There may be a degree of difference of involvement of all attributes, and there should be difference. Not all situations demand the same degree of all attributes. It depends on a particular situation. You can ask all great chefs in the world, understand and know the right proportion of salt for each kind of food. For small groups, individual, large groups, how? Practice. They failed in the initial stages. They failed to put the right proportion. They failed many times for sure, but those failures always make them learn to be a better chef. If we understand the importance of salt, then we can also practice to put the right proportion of all these attributes in our endeavor in pursuit of excellence. Dear friend, it can be very lengthy. I find it very, very interesting that how all these attributes can be applied in the same degree to all situations. That is my question to you. Please give your answer. I'll be happy to know these things. Thank you.